Hi there, TCC. Welcome to the video series for writing, reading, and research and transferable skills. My name is Yasmin Shahal. I teach here in the Writing Studies program. I'm joined by our lead tutor, Lindsay, from the Writing Center. And today we're interviewing Professor Lisa Hoffman-Reyes from Writing Studies about technical writing. All right, so our first question is, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you teach? What is your favorite course to teach? And what is one fun fact about you? And I'll put these questions in the chat.
Okay. Well, I teach a variety of writing classes, everything from technical writing to composition, English 101, 102, 103. I teach some literature classes, and I also teach in the fall for the bachelor's programs. So writing for health information management, and that's a really cool opportunity as well. So I teach a lot of different writing classes. A little bit about me, my background is, my educational background is in literature. So lots of Victorian British literature in my spinning through my mind, and it does inform my teaching in various ways, and just sort of some of the things that I love about receiving student work and enjoying it. I am a Florida native. So I've been in Washington. I came here for my undergrad back in the late 80s. And then I ended up coming back in 2010 because I am so enamored with the beauty, of course, Mount Rainier and all of that. And a fun fact about myself, well, I was thinking because it's snowing out there today and super cold, something kind of cool is that I have been to Iceland 3 different times. So I really love cold, and I love Iceland, and I love the north, and I love the dramatic sky of various places. So Iceland, that's my fun fact.
Lovely fun fact. And so for our next question, for students taking a course in your discipline, what would you like them to know about writing, reading, and research in your field? And does writing and research play a role in your teaching?
Indeed. It's a writing class, all of them. So writing is at the center of everything. I'm going to pull up the chat so I make sure I hit all of those different pieces of it. What would I like you to know? I'd like, one of the things I'd like you to know is everything that you're bringing in is of value. It's all, whether you're writing in the technical writing program, if you're writing composition, narrative essays, if you're writing argumentative essays, I want you to know that everything
No,
that you're
I'm
bringing
so
in.
sorry. My internet, I don't know, our internet's having some issues. I'm so sorry.
That's
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Is it okay if I ask the question one more time?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
And
I'll
of
edit
course,
this.
let me read it carefully because
Yeah.
I have like, I can't process anything. I'm like not so smart unless I'm looking at the words.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. So I'm gonna
And now
pause.
I've got the chat up here, which is
Yeah.
perfect.
All right, so our next question is for students taking a class in your discipline, what would you like them to know about writing, reading, and research in your field? Does writing, reading, and research play a role in your teaching? The easy question for you.
Yes. So of course, writing is at the center of everything in each one of my classes. Even in my literature classes, we're working through literature via the writing, coming at it from thinking on paper and kind of figuring out what we think by what we write, how we write, what we don't write. And so writing and the decisions around writing are integral to everything that we're doing in my classes. And in terms of research, yes, and each one of my classes has a research aspect. Some are more research heavy, but I really like to work with research, talk about research. My own pleasure in terms of my, outside of teaching kinds of things is to work with literature through writing. So I like to write through my thoughts, and I like to talk to my students about the value of working through everything and the power of the pen, the keyboard, whatever it is that you choose, but words and the power of them. So research, engaging with other people's words, writing, using our own words in order to think, in order to feel, in order to communicate. So yes, it's at the center of most of what I'm doing. And it plays a role in almost every aspect of my teaching. But the research aspect in my 101 class, which going back to your question of my favorite class to teach, I would say 101, even though each class that I teach has something that I really enjoy about teaching it. I like that in 101 we start with a narrative essay because to me that is the best pleasure of my whole quarter is getting to read narrative essays from students. I want to read my students the moments that make up their lives. And it is such a pleasure for me and really an honor the things that students share with me. So research is at, I'd say, 60 to 70% of what we do, but that little bit that isn't is just as powerful and just as important from my perspective. So
I really appreciate this answer because one, as you know, being in the same department, but at the end, we have a mutual student, Caleb McNeely, he's on our baseball team, and he wrote such a wonderful technical writing paper in your class. He shared it with myself and Blaine because we teach the athletics LC, and I will say, like, it was such a pleasure to see as his English 101 teacher, and then how it moved on into technical writing. And he's wanting to become an engineer, and the way he weaved in his narrative, because he chose a topic that was about his hometown of Lacey. And I really, really appreciated just how that was intertwined into technical writing. So I just wanted to share that, but thank you.
oh, that's so wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Yes.
I think the other thing I like about narratives is the student is the expert. Like nobody else is the expert there.
Yeah.
They're like understanding research and getting it into your writing is so important. But this is the one essay where like they're the ones that know. No one else can tell their story. So
Yeah. And they can retell their story and they can tell it different. They can change their story, not just on the page, but in their lives. And like, this is the power of the narrative. Like, how are you conceiving this? Okay, that's valid. How else are you conceiving it? What about 5 minutes before that happened? What about 10 minutes after? It's so powerful.
Oh, I love that. Ooh, I'm so excited. Um, my next question is, what does effective writing, research, and comprehension look like in your field?
More and more, I'm moving to the idea that effective writing is expressive writing. Effective writing is human writing. Less and less is effective writing about correct writing, whatever that means, Effective writing takes into account the audience and purpose. So it's not just I'm human and here I am expressing myself, It's also what do I want from this exchange? Who am I talking to? Why am I speaking? What do I need? What do they need? And so effective writing takes all of these aspects into consideration. And effective research is respectful of the sources that you're working with. And it's thinking creatively about not just finding sources that affirm what you're trying to assert, but thinking about ways that you can bounce off of research that really moves from another direction or what you can add, yes, and trying to think beyond, here's what I want to say. This person said it better than I did, and so I'm going to plop in their words, so effective research really is feeling empowered to join a conversation with a source as opposed to use a source in order to assert something that you're maybe not sure that you're asserting yourself. And then comprehension. What does effective comprehension look like? I think again, it has something to do with comprehending it through your own lens and being okay with that and wanting it to be that way rather than thinking that there's something that you're needing to understand. No, you're understanding it as you're understanding it, And so if you're reading carefully and you're reading generously and you're reading with attention, and I think attention is another premium. So if you're able to attend to something, then you're doing it effectively. And from my perspective, you're doing it correctly.
I hear a lot of empowering that student voice and agency. So good. I think the next question is from Lindsay.
Yes. Okay. So this is actually 3 questions kind of rolled into one. What do you recommend to students who are struggling to understand writing, reading, and research in your field? Is there anything specific you want our tutors to know about your courses? And what can tutors do to help students feel confident navigating your courses?
Okay, I'll break that down into one at a time. Okay, what do I recommend to students that are struggling to understand the material that we're working with or the assignments? Ask questions, break it down, um, I'm glad if a student is kind of coming to a question, you know, or wondering if they're understanding things properly. I think that that's a really, like, if you're wondering if you are, then you're 2/3 there. You know, I think if someone is just kind of not paying close attention, then they're not too worried about whether or not they understand a piece of reading or comprehending. So I think reach out. I'd like to recommend that a student who's struggling to understand, reach out to me, reach out to the library, reach out to the writing center, reach out to family and friends, step away and come back to it. So there's lots of different methods, but I think that don't feel like you're alone in this. And not everyone is, you know, English literature or composition person, in the sense that I am fond of telling my students that I have a 4th grade math competency. And that is true. According to the GRE, when I took it to go into graduate school, I am a 4th grader in terms of math. So if English is a struggle for you, math is a struggle for me, and I completely empathize. Also, I love math and I want to understand it and do it really well. I think it, like, numbers are beautiful, math is beautiful, but I would need to really sit and work through something in order to understand it. So I would say I would recommend that you reach out. I would be living in the math center if I was taking a math class. So that's one of the things. And then, is there anything specific I'd like the tutors to know? I think the tutors at TCC are so wonderful. And Lindsay, you and I have worked together. I so appreciate the role that the tutors play there. And so one of the things I'd like to tell all the tutors at TCC who are working with my students is, feel free to, you know, don't feel like you're overstepping anything, or, you know, give everything that you want to. I can talk to the student about, you know, if there's something that they're confused about, in terms of maybe I gave one piece of feedback and the tutor gave another, but less is not more is more in my classes with the tutoring center. So from my point of view, I'm so grateful for the resource. And what can tutors do to empower and help students? I think in my classes, I don't tend to do a lot of instruction in terms of sentence level concerns. And I think a lot of students, particularly maybe international students or students who didn't have as strong of a, you know, K-12 experience, maybe have some insecurities about some sentence level issues. So if the tutor wouldn't mind and wants to participate with the student in terms of strengthening some sentence level issues, that would be wonderful, mostly to empower the student. For me, it's a matter of clarity. So I don't want to grade anyone based on commas, comma splices, run-on sentences, but as a matter of clarity, it can be a problem if a student isn't able to express themselves the way they want to be understood. So to the extent that the tutor can help with that, I'm really, really grateful.
I like what you said about clarity, because you can write something that's technically perfect, But if it doesn't say anything, then the whole thing is kind of pointless. So I like that focus on clarity is paramount in good writing.
Yes, yeah.
All right. So this next question, also for me, what foundational skills would you like students to walk in with? What do you wish you had known when you started writing, reading, and research in your field?
I'll maybe start with the second question. I wish that I'd had a firmer vocabulary to talk about literature and to talk about writing when I came into my graduate studies and then became a professor. There's two sides of the English departments, right? There's like the Ret Comp side, rhetoric and composition, and then there's the literature, side. And I'm definitely on the literature side. And furthermore, my undergraduate experience was at a school where, well, it was Evergreen in Olympia. So we didn't have grades and we didn't have, tests. And so it was a very, free-flowing creative experience that gave me a lot, but it didn't give me some of those tools that are now very useful that I had to kind of gather in graduate school and then as a writing teacher. So I've been teaching now for 22 years, and now I finally feel better about it. It took about 10 years, I'm sure, to kind of understand what would be most useful to students, how to kind of speak about uh, how they could how students can be clear, what audience and purpose looks like. And I still don't have the vocabulary of someone with a rhetoric and composition focus in terms of their education, but I'm hoping that what I bring in from the other side, from, a love of Robert Browning and Charles Dickens and, Oscar Wilde and all of the Victorianists and of course Shakespeare too and the modernists, also informs my teaching in ways that are useful and powerful to students. So. And then what foundational skills would you like students to walk in with? I guess it is a skill, is the skill perhaps of attention. And so I might in the past have said I'd like students to walk in with those sentence level issues so I didn't have to worry, about teaching it because I don't really teach, these smaller where I provide links, I offer feedback on essays, but I don't really instruct on it. But now I really think something I'd like the student to walk in with is the ability to just put down the phone, put down the video games, just suspend disbelief, and also be ready to maybe enjoy what we're doing just while we're together. And again, I know that it's, literature doesn't make everyone's heart pound and writing doesn't, but at the same time, it can be useful, it can be empowering. It's Valentine's Day tomorrow. You can write love letters, you can persuade your boss to give you a promotion. Good writing will take you everywhere. You can conjure up wishes with the right words, you can do anything, but put down the things that may distract you. And one of the reasons I say this is I have two sons in college, and one of them is very good at putting down all the things and focusing, and the other is a real struggle. And he's a beautiful boy and he's a wonderful child, but this is a struggle for him. So it's not a judgment issue that, we all have our devices, but it is a real skill now to be able to put it down just while we're together or while we're together too, when you're sitting in front of the screen and you're writing your essays, we're together. I'm with you. I want to support you. I hope we have a cosmic connection in the sense that, when you're working for something with this class, so all I ask is that you give it your attention and maybe a little bit of joy or at least thoughtfulness and the desire to express yourself just for the moment that we're together. So.
I really have so many things I just appreciate with this answer. Just that authenticity of like, come as you are, and then just how your journey also, you don't have to figure it out. You don't have to know all of it all at once, but just coming as you are. And I think that like as students are listening, I hope like the way I just felt like very empowered by your answer here. It's just come in, be present and engage and give yourself that opportunity to fall in love with, a part of writing, even if it's not your jam, because you don't have to know it all. And that's like I really appreciated that answer, and the transferable skills between literature and, it all connects. And yeah, I really appreciate that answer. So our next question is, how do you learn about or ask students to reflect on prior knowledge that they bring to your course? How do you help students identify and describe the knowledge they have learned in your course that might be relevant to other contexts, especially as they move through their academic pathway and into the workforce?
Okay, one of the things that I can say is a lot of my students are younger. I end up teaching a lot of Running Start students and a lot of students who are living at home with their parents. And so that's a significant demographic that I teach. And so sometimes the student just feels like nothing has happened to them. They haven't really lived. They don't have anything to write about. To that student, I would say that is so not true. Everything, and especially again if we're attentive to our lives, and we all are in some way, whether or not we're expressing it, but it's much more interesting when a student writes about some small everyday kind of thing that we can all relate to, a feeling of insecurity, rejection, beauty, powerlessness, whatever it is. You have something to write about because you're a human being and you're living an experience that I'm not. You're seeing things that I'm not. So I want students who are looking to reflect on their own experiences, that you have experiences. You have the people around you, you have your own self, you have your thoughts, you have your world. And that's everything. And I'm interested, and so are the rest of us. So all you have to do is, think about how you're going to say it. And you don't have to say too much. You don't have to say anything about yourself. If you don't, yourself in question marks, you can create a self. That's another thing that I love about writing. You are creating a self, you are crafting yourself. This is pure power. I'm not a video game player, but if I were, I would love this idea that I can choose this little avatar and here's me, and it's kind of the same in writing class. You are whoever you say you are, and your experiences are everything that you want them to be. So I would tell students they have more than they think coming in. And then let's see, how do you help students identify and describe? One of the things that I like to do when a student isn't sure what to write about for, a research essay or something, is what I tend to do is I go back to their introduction.
We're cutting out for a second. Looks like we cut out. No worries. I'm going to ask that. Here you go. All right. Go ahead. Sorry. I think we're good.
Okay. Yes, so if a student is unsure about what to write about for an argumentative essay, or maybe it's a proposal that they're asked to work on, or research that they're tasked with gathering toward a writing project, what I like to do is I go back to the introduction, that they said something about themselves, what their major is, what they do in high school, what clubs they join, how many, they have dogs and cats, or, they live in a rural area of Washington, or whatever it is. And usually within that, there are a lot of things that we could talk about. How are the roads over there? Do you feel that your school does a good job with offering paths for students who aren't college bound, like all the things that we could think about to write about that interest us. So I try to tap into students' interests. I try to have open-ended prompts, and then kind of propel students toward considering what interests them. Because if it interests them when they're writing it, to a student, if it interests you, it's going to interest me. And if it bores you to tears, you're going to have a really hard time expressing yourself in a way that excites your reader. So I try to get them to think about what they do want to explore. Or if it's something related to a career, a lot of people aren't sure yet, and that's fair. So start playing around with some ideas in, political science or, computer programming, and kind of tag team what you're doing. Think in doubles. Maybe you're taking a psychology class that you're really enjoying. Maybe you even read some articles in there that got you thinking about something you'd like to do in our class. I have no objections to you using research that you're using in other classes. We can even talk about, things that you've written before that you want to revise and continue to work with, maybe in a new way. So I try to get students to think about what is most interesting to them. And let's see. And what might be relevant. So describe the knowledge they have learned in your course that might be relevant in other contexts as they move through their. Yeah, so absolutely, and especially with something like technical writing. A lot of the students are on a particular path, and a lot of the students are in a course, especially technical writing, where there are several people in the class who are on the same course, and maybe they're in other classes too. So I try to encourage students to work together. Don't feel like if you identify 3 other people who are also in the engineering program, maybe share some of the work that you're doing together. Maybe you can take different positions on a similar subject, but work together, make connections, make it relevant to your course of study, either to your life or to your profession. But don't feel like you need to just write, in the abstract. Feel free to use it as something that's practical to you.
I'm really excited for the next question that Lindsay's going to ask because you gave a great answer during one of our meetings for writing studies. So up to you, Lindsay.
Yes, so we're going to switch gears here a little bit. What is the role of AI in your classroom? How do you see students using AI effectively? And does your industry require that students learn to use AI tools?
Yes.
Yes, to all of it.
Very big question. And the most interesting thing about that question is like, it is just so rapidly evolving, both AI and my own relationship with it, and my students' relationship with it, and the classroom requirements around it and language around it. And first of all, I don't insist that students use AI. So I know that there are certain classes where it's kind of incorporated into the course. And at the meeting that you're referring to, Yasmin, Jeff Culkins mentioned the environmental effect. And that really struck me. I did not realize that. And now I've been studying it. And now I even have my students do a reading on it, not in order to say, like, wagging your finger, no, 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 but did you know, that this is something that's happening? It's this huge environmental devastation currently, and maybe that'll change. But maybe that's one reason why I don't require students use to AI, because you may have an objection to it, and if you do, I get it. Also, it's a writing class, and I really want students to feel free to make all kinds of mistakes. So I don't want students to feel like AI is being required, and that thing that I'm doing with AI, this is going to produce something that now I'm proud of. I want to take the idea of an AI piece as perfection off the table. I also think that AI has some really powerful ramifications, problems in terms of allowing for all different kinds of voices that maybe aren't, white cisgender voices. And I am reluctant to use a tool that's so sort of centered around a particular way of speaking and that's the norm. So I think AI is evolving. My use of AI is really evolving. How do I see students using it effectively? I think it can be used effectively. One of the ways that it can be used effectively is outlining. I think that also can be a slippery slope because I think it's so wonderful to have an outline and to take an outline off the table now, to have organization off the table and be able to write. You know, now I can focus on writing and what I mean to say because I know what I'm going to say. However, do you want AI to tell you what you're going to say? And unless you're saying, these are my points, help me organize them, if you ask AI to organize an essay that, you know, has these points, broadly speaking, and then AI gives you what to write about, it's really taking a lot of power from you, a lot of opportunity from you, something that you might have thought of that was really interesting. And then now those choices, once they've been made for you, it's hard to walk them back, even if we want to, even if we think that we're going to revise something. Oh, we have a kitty cat.
Love it.
Yeah. I think that AI can be useful if you're extremely careful with it. I think that organization is one way that it can be really useful. I think that it can be useful for proofreading, but I think it goes too far and it sanitizes in a way that can be, it can take away the expressiveness. It can use these vague words that don't mean anything. Of course, at its not at its worst, but one way that it's really a problem, I guess, in a writing class is the temptation to just copy and paste from the prompt and then put it into your assignment. I get it. I get it. And it's not a moral judgment against you're a cheater and you know, you don't care about. We're busy. We have families, children, other duties, things we're thinking about, things we're doing. We're not a bad person if we make that mistake. However, it's a writing class and I want to help you improve your writing. And you have to show me what it looks like in order for us to work with it together. Um, don't let the AI take your voice from you. Don't let it put words into your mouth. Sometimes the temptation when the AI prompt generates something is not even to read it. You're almost scared of it. Um, you're scared to work with it because it seems so perfect. It said it so well, but did it? And also, who is that? You know? And furthermore, of course, is it true? Because some of my assignments, I have this one reading that every time I assign it and a student uses AI, the AI gives it the same prompt. It's, I guess the writer of the piece has written something else, right? That has a completely different theme to it. So when the student pops in this prompt, it gives a plot that didn't occur. And it just, it's, it embarrass, it is embarrassing to be kind of when I say, you know, wait, but you know, and I don't want to have that kind of relationship with my student. I want to have a relationship of, what did you think of that? Wasn't that, did that made me cry? You know, how did you feel about that? But we can't even move toward that conversation if you're not trusting yourself to read it poorly, read it improperly, read it, you know, however you read it, but read it and respond to it. Let yourself be interested, let yourself speak, let yourself express yourself however you express yourself.
One of the things I really like about your class is that you address AI right up front. Like your core, the people, the students in your course, they're discussing it before they, before they even do the other work. So
Yeah, and in my English 102 class, I've recently revised it so the whole first 4 weeks, Lindsay, we're talking about AI, we're talking about the environmental studies article. We're also talking about the positive uses in medical practices. We're reading a wonderful reading from Carmen Kennard that talks about the problems with voice and the whitewashing, the sanitation that occurs, the disempowerment of voices, the real problems that occur. So I'm really glad that you like that. One of the reasons why I really have to treat it so early is because I've got to take it off the table. Um, we have to talk about it right away. It it's so everywhere now. The discipline is changing so quickly. I don't want to have my head in the sand about it. I don't want to have a relationship of, you know, me trying to catch someone and a student trying to, I want to take all of that off the table. Let's talk about it with each other. Let's work with it. Let's think about it. Let's write about it. But it is a wave that keeps coming.
Before I stop recording, and I have one last question for you, I just want to just touch up on that approach of just dive in it in the beginning. I appreciate that so much because it's so easy to be like, oh, it's that thing, and I'm trying, and I just so like I'm so inspired by this answer because I think as educators, it's not going to go away. And it's something to dive in with and really formulate that language with your students. So I very much, appreciate that answer so much. And, it's even challenged me to not be so afraid of it as an educator, because I'll be honest, I have been a little afraid to talk about AI in my courses. So I feel really inspired. And the students that are listening, like, dive in. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. And I really like how you said, I want you. I don't want the AI. I want you. I care about what you have to say. That was so
Yeah.
beautifully said. Thank you.
My
Oh,
pleasure.
yeah. So our last question is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to like us to would like to, and then any last minute advice for our students or anything that you want to make sure that they know moving into technical writing and just in general, anything you want them to know.
Um, Bring yourself, as you say, bring yourself with everything that you have, and set aside those things like we talked about that distract us. This opportunity of being in college, in retrospect, it's like sipping, uh, hot chocolate on a cold day. We don't often the rest of our lives, moving up to this and then leaving from this, have an opportunity to delve into our own interest, to study. I know that there are core classes that you kind of just have to move through, but you have this opportunity. You've given it to yourself. It's a blessing to yourself. It's something that you deserve. You deserve to be able to attend to this moment fully. So I know that you may have other studies, other classes, of course, that you're working on, family obligations, but I really recommend that you set aside quiet time for yourself so that you're able to do your work, and that you see it in some sense as something that's giving you, filling you with something rather than just a hoop that you have to jump through. And I know at TCC, the professors really want you to succeed. So try to communicate anything that you need. Know that the idea is to uh, help you reach all of your goals rather than to obstruct any of them. So we're all here for you. And if there's anything that I can do, if you're watching this and you're in my class, or if you're not, let me know. Let us know. And we want you to succeed. It's in my case, I want to help you express yourself the way that you want to be understood. I want you to be able to bring your human voice into something, because as I said earlier, that's the premium now. The premium isn't correctness. Anyone can produce anything that's correct, but only you can bring in your personal human voice. So that would be my advice. Bring it on.
Oh, I don't want to stop recording here. And for the students that are listening, I hope you feel this energy that just, as I was listening throughout this interview, you really present this warm energy, this exciting energy. And for students taking your courses are, I would say, very lucky. And I'm, Lindsay, jealous of you that you've been working with Lisa in this regard, and I didn't get to come to these classes. So thank you for the invite.
Thank you so much. And Lindsay is
Thank you so
the
much.
best.
She honestly is. And so thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording here. Again, students, I hope you feel the way I'm feeling right now, is just really inspired, excited. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.